Soothing story time, spooky tales. The Sheep Farmer. The creatures of nature had gathered to tell stories by the Tree of Colours. Zenim went first. Once upon a time there was a herd of sheep grazing peacefully in a field. Unknown to the sheep, the farmer was arranging to have the sheep sent to slaughter, to end up as people's lunch. But the sheep did not know. They liked the farmer. They did not think the farmer would hurt them at all. Though they did not like the farmer's dog, who herded them from their lovely field to the barn at night, they thought they had a good life and were hoping it would continue to be good for many years to come. The farmer arranged with the owner of the slaughterhouse to have the sheep slaughtered in a week's time. That night, an oddly written note was slipped under the farmer's door. She picked it up and read it. "You bad farmer, send sheep and I come for you. Bitey bitey, love sheep." The farmer thought it was a joke. Amongst the local farmers a tale had spread of a strange sheep that had mysterious powers and destroyed farms when the farmer was going to send their sheep herd to slaughter. The tale went that the farmers always heard a sheep cackling in the night before bad things began to happen. The farmer thought that was the most stupid story she had ever heard in her life. And as for sheep writing notes to people, well, sheep couldn't read or speak English. How would they hold the pen? But you see, the farmer was wrong and right at the same time. The farmer showed the note to her family, and they all laughed about it and spent a long time trying to decide which local farmer had sent it. They did not know they were being watched through the gap in their curtains. Out in the dark, whispers were moving around the countryside that the cackling sheep was close by. Rabbits hopped back into their burrows and wouldn't come out. Insects hid in the bark of trees. Bats decided not to bother with their usual hunting ground and flew elsewhere. Just as the farmer and her family were getting ready to sleep, they heard a strange sound. It was unnerving. The farmer thought she must have misheard. It sounded like one of the sheep wasn't baaing as normal, but cackling. The next morning, when the farmer went outside, she stepped onto hay. The ground was covered in hay. She looked up, and there was a ring of hay bales round the farmhouse. Every bale of hay the farmer owned was missing from the barn and was either spread on the ground or stacked round the farmhouse in a perfect circle. The farmer climbed over the bales of hay. The only footprints in the mud were sheep hoof prints. The farmer and her family were angry. It had rained in the night and the ground was muddy, The bales were soaked. So the farmer spent the whole day moving the hay back to the barn and trying to find a way to dry the hay. That evening, the whole family were sitting around the kitchen table, exhausted from the day's work. A note slid under the kitchen door. The farmer jumped up and opened the door. There was no one there, only darkness. The farmer took a lamp and went outside. Still no one. All was quiet. Then the farmer heard it. A cackle. The farmer moved around in the dark. Again, there was a cackle. The farmer became scared and quickly went back into the farmhouse and shut the door. She read the note. Bad farmer, no leave sheep alone, bye bye farmer, love sheep. The paper was dirty and torn. No, not torn, chewed by some sort of animal. But this time the words were written in red. The farmer pretended to her family that it was still a joke, but she didn't believe it. She thought one of the other farmers was being cruel. Then she heard it again, cackling. But this night, it wasn't just the once. Every time the farmer was about to fall asleep, there was a strange cackling coming out of the night to wake her. The next morning, the farmer peered out of the window of her bedroom. There was no ring of hay. All looked normal. She went downstairs to find the kitchen was full of goats, wearing hats, who had eaten all the food in the house. The farmer didn't own any goats. She took the goats out and put them in the pig pen, where the pigs should have been, but weren't. She never did find them. While she was looking for them, she heard squawking. The huge oak tree was full of chickens. She didn't own any chickens, so she went to get the chickens out of the tree. They pecked at her and pooed on her. She couldn't get hold of a single chicken. Also, the outdoor toilet was now at the front gate, and the front gate was now in the shape of a giant spider and was waiting in a sinister manner outside the toilet door. The farmer's husband went into the village to find out if anyone knew who was playing these tricks, and who had lost some goats and a flock of vicious chickens. Several villagers came back. No one knew who was doing this. They of course looked for footprints in the mud. All they found were hoof prints from sheep. They couldn't get the chickens out of the tree either, and the goats bit them. The villagers went away shaking their heads. A few suggested it might be a joke, but no one laughed. That evening, while the farmer was sitting in the dark, watching out of the window to see who was leaving the note, a note slid under the door. The farmer froze. She would have seen a person. She shone out her lamp. There was no one there. It was a while before she could touch the note. Eventually she looked at it. Bad farmer, sheep live or you dead. Love sheep. The farmer sat in the dark, looking out, and heard a cackle, and another. All night the cackling went on, and all night the farmer sat terrified in the dark. The next morning the goats were gone, the chickens were gone, the outdoor toilet was still at the front gate, but the cart was now up in the oak tree. The plough used to make furrows in the field to plant the seeds was lying near the farmhouse, and across the farmhouse roof were deep grooves, where the plough had made furrows in the night. The farmer looked across at the barns. They too had deep furrows, criss-crossing over the roof. There were muddy prints behind each furrow, that of a sheep. Well, the farmer was very worried, as you can imagine. She sent her family away to her sister's house. She took the sheep out of the barn and was herding them to their field when their barn fell down. There was an almighty crash. The farmer went over to look at the debris. There was wool caught in the fallen wood. The farmer touched the wool, and it turned to smoke, disappearing into the air. There was a very faint cackle. The farmer turned and walked over to the sheep. "I'm not going to send you to the slaughterhouse. You are going to stay here and live out the rest of your life. I'll build you a much nicer barn." The sheep, of course, had no idea what she said, but there were no more strange occurrences at the farm, and never again did the farmer hear the cackling sheep. The end.